Good evening if you are joining me. Let's see if anyone's going to join me. I'm just going to check I'm in the right group actually. I've got quite a few groups at the minute. Let's just check I've got into the Pilates for Men group. Yes, I am. Good. That's fine. Hi Steve, hello Graham. I've just picked up your notes, Steve. I'll just put a little bit of background music on because I'm strange doing in silence. I'm used to teaching with background. Right, let me just give it a couple more minutes. I know it's 7 o'clock now. And in the old world, if I wasn't my studio, I'd be starting bang on 7 o'clock, but let me give it a couple of minutes for people to get into the group. Hello. So just make sure you've got just paper, pen, if you're old school like me, or you can record it on your phone, you know, in the notes section. So whichever you prefer. Okay. So we've got a few exercises to go through. Hi Gavin. Right, so for this you won't need your shoes or your trainers on. In fact, all of your Pilates sessions you can do you know, in bare feet, or if you've got some of you that I know do Pilates with me, if you've got like ripper socks, you want to wear those, that's fine. But you definitely won't need shoes, trainers. Just be careful if you're keeping your socks on, you're obviously not going to slip. Okay. 1 more minute. Hello Gavin, how are you? And then we will get going. Can't believe it's Monday again. These weeks are absolutely flying by. So yeah, I know some of you have done Pilates before. You've done Pilates with me, even if you don't do it consistently. You've done it in the past. It's fine if you're completely new to Pilates. Hi Mike. Hello Ian. So I just wanted to start off to give yourself a base really, or a reference point. So you can always revisit this after 7 days. I mean, you could argue 7 days is too soon to see significant differences, but you can revisit this in, you know, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, etc. So, hello. Let's make a start. And if you're not doing this with me live, I really hope you're going to do this on catch up, because ideally you want to do these sessions every day. I know some people might start a day behind, so you might prefer to do this first thing in the morning. That's fine if you're doing this on catch up. Okay, so let's turn that right down now. The first exercise we're going to do now, I'm not going to coach you into it for obvious reasons, because if I teach the setup, you're going to perform it how I've asked you to perform it, as opposed to how your body would naturally perform it. So the first one we're going to do is a test of leg strength. It's the Pilates half squat, and it's also looking at keeping your spine in neutral. So you're going to bring your feet into hip width, and then you're just going to go into a squat position. Now we're not holding it, we're doing this as a dynamic assessment, so it's more reminiscent of functional movements. This is all I want you to do. Go into a half squat position. So we're there. Okay, now what you're looking for is firstly that the knees can go to 45 degrees as you go into that position. So if you need to hold it, just to take a check that where your knees are in relation to the body. Secondly, that your spine stays in neutral. So if you can do those two things, keeping the knees at 45 degrees and keeping the spine in neutral, then you score 3 on that. If you can do one or the other, so it might be the knees can go to 45 degrees, but your back is doing something maybe that isn't in a neutral position, you score 2. And if none of those things go to plan, so we can't go too far, or the spine's doing something, then it would be 1 for that. So 3 is 45 degrees flexion as a recap, and your spine's in neutral. Remember, it's only a half squat. 2, if you can do one of those, either of those criteria, so it might be 45 degrees with the knees, but the spine might not be there, or you might have the spine in neutral, but the knees have only gone so far. If neither of those go, so you're kind of here, and you can't do anything without your heels lifting, then that'd be a score of 1. So that's your half squat for your leg strength, and it also measures your neutral spine, so that's what it's testing. Second exercise is the full squat, okay? So this is going to test the leg strength, and it is full knee flexion here. So from this position, you do allow the heels to lift. So I'll just demonstrate. And then we come back up. So that is your Pilates full squat. Now, if you can go, have a little go with that. If you can go all the way to the floor and back in a smooth motion, so you're not leaning back or you're not leaning forward, then you score 3 on that. If you can go down to the floor and lift the heels, but there's a little bit of wobbling as you're on the way down or on the way back up, you score 2. If we're unable to do that, that's not a problem. So you might need assistance, therefore you could use the wall or you could use a chair to do that, then you'd score 1. So there's your 3, so just make a note of that. So 3, full range of movement to the floor and back, smooth motion. 2 is you can go down to the floor and back, but there's some wobble, so just be honest with yourself when you score these, because this is only you're going to see this. And 1 is you need support, and that's absolutely fine. Okay, your third exercise is your heel raise. So this is the strength of the calf and balance. So from here, again, and I just want to stay on this squat, sorry, making sure, look at your knee alignment as well when you squat, as they're turning in or out. Third exercise is heel raises. So you're going to start off on the right foot. Now this foot, don't be pressing into the shin or wrapping it around the back. Just have it at the side, and then from here, you're going to lift and lower. Now, with this one, I appreciate it might be difficult, so you can actually have a light fingertip touch. So if you wanted to use a chair, you could place your hands on the chair as you did that, okay? Now, when you do this, firstly, you need to do it now. It's 5 reps on one leg, okay? So 5 reps, so you're just going to go raise and lower 5 times on the one side. So 3, 4, 5, and back down. Now, within that, if that was smooth, so you could actually come off the floor and back down on a single leg. There might have been some wobbling, but that's okay. You didn't roll over off onto your ankle or put the other foot down. Then you'd score 3. If you needed to go to the chair or the wall and do fingertip touch to balance you as you raised here, that's fine. So you'd have had a prop there, you scored 2. If that just didn't happen at all for you, then that would be 1. Okay, so that's your right foot, your right ankle. And you could make a note as to, you know, was the foot rolling out? How did it feel on that side? Because it could be completely different on the left. My left's not so good, I broke this foot a long time ago. Still got the wire in it now. This side, exactly the same. So you're going to lift and lower on this side for 2, 3. Now, if you need support, you can go and get the chair or the wall, and you'd continue and you do your 5 reps. I want you to do 5 reps. That's the test criteria on that side. So do your 5 reps, and then you score 3. If you could do 5 straight off here, not holding on to anything, you just went for it and you'd got the full range of movement there. Might have been a wobble, that's okay. You score 2 if you used a prop, you know, your chair or the wall, but it's really light fingertip touch. You're not using those to push you up because that defeats the object. Or if you couldn't raise up onto the heel at all, that's okay, that would be a 1. Okay, I'm not teaching these in regressions as such. If I was doing this in a class format, then I'd say, right, if you can't do a single raise, obviously we'll do both feet and double, but it's not about that today. We're just looking at that assessment. Because remember, when you walk, when you run, even when you cycle, the legs, they're not working, they're not on the floor at the same time, and the pelvis moves in opposing halves. Okay, so the next exercise you're going to do, now if you haven't got a wall, that's okay, just bear with me. I'll teach this from the wall, and it might be that you go back and do this one after I've taught if you need to. Now you need your head and your shoulders back against the wall, so they're going to be back into the wall. Your feet will be 6 inches away from the wall, and then you're going to bring your arms into this position. So your elbow is going to start in on your shoulder and your hand in line with the elbow here. Now, we're looking with this, it's shoulder abduction because you're moving up, and it's also the ability to keep the neutral spine, and actually it's external rotation of the shoulders there as well, okay? So postural alignment and spinal control. So from here, you'll extend and then you'll come back down, but without, just do a couple a minute before I tell you what you're looking for, because I don't want you to put that into your body, if that makes sense. Now, what we're looking for from here, the feet are about 6 inches away. You're going to breathe in, breathe out. Now you're looking for the hands, the back of the hands to stay on the wall, the forearms to stay on the wall as you extend, and the shoulders and the head most definitely stay on the wall, and without this happening. So when you reach the arms, you shouldn't be doing this with your spine, and you wouldn't want the rib cage to be excessively flaring outwards. So if you can do all that, keeping the head back, the shoulders back, the arm goes into full extension with the forearm and the back of the hand, and keep a neutral spine, then you score 3 on that one, okay? And if you can do that, you can raise the arms, but either the spine comes away, or it might be you can keep the spine there, but the arms don't go too far, but they are back, then you score 2. If the ribs are coming away, the spine's coming away, then you score 1 on that test. So that's your goalpost test, okay? And that's quite key, you know, when you're doing things like you're doing overhead squats, if you're doing shoulder presses, etc. Okay, now the next one, we're heading towards the floor. So this is a test of your hamstring and spine flexibility, actually, as well as the core to a degree. So actually I'll face you. So you're going to sit with your feet, legs roughly hip width, apart. Now you're actually going to flex the spine. So we're looking to sit tall and then just, flex forward here. Okay, that is the true criteria. That you would score a 3. Now to score a 3, you need to make sure the legs are in contact with the floor. So we're not getting this, okay? You've hinged from the hips, but your spine is still neutral, so you haven't gone like this, or we're not back here. So a 3 will be legs, knees to the floor, legs straight, and you hinge. A 2, you may not be able to hinge forward, that's okay. A hinge, you'd be here. A hinge. A 2, you'd be here, so you're not come forward. And a 1 would be, you might be in this position, or you might be something like this. That's okay, don't worry where you are. Like I said, this is for you, for your own information, and I might put a post into the group tomorrow just to see where people are at, so I can gauge what we need to work on, but I think I pretty much can from the sports that you've all posted in, which has been very helpful. Okay, so then your next one we're going to do is the seated hip abduction. So this is the length of the inner thigh muscles. So with this one, you're looking to go at 65 degrees, so a total of 130 if you like, here. So we're just going to sit up tall into this position. So this would be a 3, you would score a 3 if you can be at that 130 degrees and you're on both sitting bones, the spine is in neutral, so that would be a score of 3 here. A score of 2 would be if they were at 45, so they might not be as wide, that's okay, but you've still got a nice neutral posture, so we've not slumped back here, we've not overextended, or we're not leaning. That would be a 2. So you can put that in your notes. So this is for hip abduction. A 1 would be if you're unable to sit with the legs straight, so something like this is going on, or you're leaning back into it like this, okay? So they're your 3 scores there, okay? So a 1 is if the knees have had to bend and you're scrumpled up through the spine. 2 is if you're at the 45 degrees, and 3 is if you're at 65 degrees either, so you've got your total of 130 and you're in a neutral position, okay? So just make a note of that. So that's testing, remember, your inner thigh length. And actually, if you've got any hip restrictions, it's the capsule restrictions into the hip joint. And believe it or not, that is, that is core stability as well. Okay, the next one you're going to do is called Z sitting. Now I'll spin around and demonstrate this as well. So this measures your hip internal and external rotation. And this is a line that's often neglected because a lot of the time we're walking, we're running, cycling, rowing, everything's forward and back movement, flexion, extension of the hip. We don't often turn, and this is when we can get problems, and the hip can be a huge restriction on things like your squats actually, even though I know it's in that one plane. So you're going to sit in like a zigzag if you can here. So your right knee will be out to the side and your left knee, now obviously if you've got hip or knee issues, don't go into this position at all. So from here, what you're looking for, I'm just going to spin around, is for both those sitting bones. Now they might not be completely in contact. To score a level 3, this sitting bone on this left side wants to be within an inch of the floor. If it's like 4 inches, so you're sat up here, that's okay, you score a 2. If you're in something like this position, that would be a 1, okay? So this is your left sitting bone you're testing, by the way, when you write that on your notes, okay, this left ischium there. So again, like when you're sat on your bike, your row machine, even if you're sat in saddle when you're doing a equestrian event, and even at your desk actually, we want to have evenness through those ischium. Okay, now let's change sides. So you're going to bring your left knee out to the side, you're facing this way, your right knee the opposite way. So again, you've got internal rotation on the one hip, external rotation on the other. And then just feel if you've got where you've got that balance. So this side could be quite different to the other side. So you might find this side is farther into the floor, or it could be actually higher up. Now just have a little note there. So you'd score a 3 if the sitting bone is within 1 inch of the floor, or it was actually completely in contact. I can sit better on this side actually than the other side. You'd score a 2 if it's within 4 inches, so you've still got a relatively good posture here. We've not gone down or lifted the knee up. And you'd get a 1 if you're in this position, so you can maintain it, but you might have a lean or a slouching back, and this might be higher, okay? So that's your Z sitting. Now your next one we're going to do is the roll up. So you can make a note of the name of it if you want. Now from here, this is going to test your spine flexor strength, and it's also going to test the articulation of your spine into flexion. So as you'll discover with Pilates, you need both. You need the mobility of the joint and also the strength of the muscle, because if the muscles are overly worked in one direction, let's keep it simple, then the joint sometimes can't function as efficiently or effectively as it's meant to. So let me demonstrate this. Now, you might want, I've just got rid of my padded mat, but you might want, I'm going to bring my padded mat back in for this, my spine. So you might want to firm the surface there, pad it up a bit. Now, with this exercise, you start from here, and your hands start at the side on the criteria. If I was teaching this as an exercise, it actually started at the head. Now, from this position, you pick up the head, the neck, your lower, mid, upper back, and we come into this position, the roll up. Then you've got to roll back down. Now, I'm not going to teach this. It's really hard for me not to teach. Okay, now you have to bring back though your waistband, your lower back, lower ribs, mid ribs, upper ribs to there, then the neck and head. Now what we don't want, so you just do that a minute just to see where you can go. So we come back up. So it's the deep flexor system here, and then we come up and we come back down. Okay, now what we don't want, so if you can do that without your legs lifting up, without doing this, and just pushing yourself up, or just throwing yourself back down here, because that isn't really, you've just missed out the spine. If you do that in a smooth motion, you score 3. Now from the top, what I mean is this has to come down first, so your waistband, you wouldn't just be landing. If you've got stiffness in your lower back, because you're asking flexion here of the lower back, and you land like this, but you can come down to the floor, and then you can come back up to the floor, up to the top, but you might have this, or you might be gripping on your quads, because these should be relaxed really if you're using the deep core. Then you score a 2. So you have been able to get up and down off the floor, but you might have gripped with the legs there, okay? Or there might have been a little lift at some point, you'd get a 2. If your legs are lifting excessively, like completely off the mat, or you can't come back up, excuse me, then you score a 1 for that exercise, okay? So that's the roll up. And I will address that because that's an actual working exercise when we get into these sessions over the next few days. The next one is deep abdominal control, and it's the spine inflection. So this is called the 100 position. Now, if you've got back issues, don't get into the 100 like I'm about to show you for the test criteria, just bear with me. So make a note of that other one where you were at. Do you need a recap on that other one? So it's a 3 if you could get off the floor, smooth, legs don't lift, legs don't grip, and you can articulate every single joint. So that was the 3. A 2 was, remember, if something, you had like a little lift, a bend in the knee, or a grip here, but you got up, but you might have missed a part of the segment going down. And a 1, you can't really get up or down, and you've had to just make a completely different exercise to do that. Now the 100. Don't lift both legs up together if you've got back issues. This is a complete test criteria, but just bear with me because I don't want your back to go bang, so just wait there 1 second. The full criteria is you lift the legs and then you lift the upper body, so you're here, into that 100 position. Now you turn out the feet as well. So it's like the tip of the blades at the minute, they just hover, and you take the legs, so I've not done this, the tip of the blades just hover, that inferior body of scapula is just hovering. You take the legs as low as you can. Once you get into that position, just hang on a second. So you're going to hold it here. Now, if that isn't good for your back to lift both legs off, that's okay. Go into a bent leg, then lift, okay? And then you could come into a straight leg. If you've got serious back issues, and I'm hoping nobody has doing this because obviously I can't see you face to face. If you've got disc problems, etc., this probably isn't going to be suitable. You're going to go into that now. So off you go and hold. Now notice what's happening. You're aiming to keep the length here. So you don't want any bulging out through the rectus abdominis muscles. You want the length, okay? So hold it there a moment. So if you've got no bulge and you're in flexion with the spine, you would score a 3. Have a rest a minute if you need to. If you can come into that, but you might have a bulge and then you're not quite in flexion, so you might have a little lean, then you score a 2. Or if you're in flexion but you've got a bulge, so either or, you'd score a 2, okay? A 1 would be that you've had to modify it like into a bent leg to come into it, or you can't control here or that forward flex position. Does that make sense? So a 1 is completely there, tips of the blades just hovering, legs are relatively low to the floor. This is long, no bulge, but you're in flexion, you're not down here, okay? A 2 might be that you've got a bulge, but you're in flexion, or you're not in flexion, but there isn't a bulge. And a 1 would be a modification. So just make a note of that. So that tests the abdominal line here. Okay, so your next exercise you're going to do, this is for your shoulder. So it's going to be the side lift. So this is trunk and shoulder girdle stability, and it's strength of the hip abductors. Now we've got 3 reps of this, let me show you. So you come with your elbow underneath your shoulder. I'm not going to set you up too much in this, just want you to do it. Your hands will be in line, I'll demonstrate. Your hips, knees, ankles are stacked, and then you're going to hover off the floor. Once you've hovered, the arm comes up, and we lift, and we lower. 2, 3, and we come back down. Okay, so if you can do it like that, without dropping down, without the scapula getting scrunched, without rocking backwards, forwards, and the legs going 3 reps there, then you'd score a 3. Okay? If you can come up to the top here, but then we can't take this top leg without dropping our body down, or the leg's not really going anywhere, we'd score a 2. So that's an indication that we need to work on that hip abductor line. And probably that glute medius minimus at the side as well, because there's a lack of strength there. If we can't lift our body off the floor, or in theory we would be lift on a bent leg, and I would option, if we were doing working exercise like this in a class format, this is just for the purpose of the criteria of the assessment, then you'd have a 1, you'd score a 1, okay? So that is that exercise. So have a go if you haven't already. So a 3 if you're in a complete line, you come up, you take the leg away, 3 reps, then come down. 2 if you can get up to the top but you can't quite take the leg away, and a 1 if you need to bend the knees to come up. Now we have to do that on the opposite side. So remember, your shoulder girdle is part of your core structure. It's not just the back and the abdominals when we speak about the core or the glutes. The whole structure is interconnected. So you're going to set it up on the opposite side. Excuse me. Now one side might feel different to the other, and make a note of that. So that would have been, if you did that with myself and you started on the left side, that was testing onto the right leg here, the right abductor, but it was the left shoulder, and now it's moving the right shoulder, the left leg, or abductor, hip abductor. Okay, so straight legs if we can, don't push, start with your hand here, and then we're going to lift up and hold. So it is actually ankle stability, you could argue as well. So we go for 1, shoulder stability, 2, and core, 3. So I don't really want this shoulder moving excessively, and then come down. That's a 3. If we went to the top and we couldn't really take the leg off, that's okay, that would be a 2. Or if we bent the knees, that would be a 1. Okay? So that's your side lift. Now, we will do the Pilates push-up. So again, this is probably not too dissimilar to what you're used to in a push-up. So again, strength of the pectorals, the chest line, the biceps, and the triceps, the core, and the stability of the scapula, the blades. So from here, I'm just going to go to my padded mat for this one. We would bring our hands out towards shoulder width. This is if you're doing the full push-up, okay? And we're aiming to go to 2 inches off the floor. So let's just do that before I tell you the criteria so we don't change what we're doing. Okay, so from this position, your elbows, remember, they're not going right back because it's not a tricep push-up, but they're not going out in horizontal, they're in diagonal lines. Okay, so we go here, and then we go down 2 inches off the floor and press. Now, as you do this, you're looking and thinking, is your back flat? The shoulders shouldn't be coming up to the ears as you do this. So it's a press back. Okay, so if you would get a 3 if you're 2 inches from the floor, the elbows haven't swung out, the shoulders haven't come up, and obviously the back is not dipping. That would be a score of 3. If one of those goes, then it isn't a 3, so be honest with yourself, because this is something you can look back on. You get a 2 if you can go into the full push-up, but it might not be 2 inches off the floor, but you have got good shoulder stability, scapular stability, so this isn't happening. So you're not 2 inches off the floor, but that doesn't happen and your back doesn't dip, that would be a 2. And then you would, it would be a 1 if your back is dipping, if your shoulders are lifting. So if you haven't, I don't really want to do it wrong because it would be dangerous to do it too many wrong, but if you're in something like this or that's happening, okay, that would be a 1. Now we're nearly there on these tests. Now we're going to do Superman. So this one you come back onto your tummy for. So from here, we're looking at the flexibility through the spine on this one into extension, okay? And this is spine and hip strength as well. So let me demo, because once you get onto the floor and your head's down, you'll be able to see me. So I won't over teach it. So you'll go arms about to a T, your feet be into hip width. We try and align ourselves, and then we're going to hover. So we lift here and hover, and then we come back down. So we just hold for a couple of seconds. Now do that again. So coming up and hover. It shouldn't be in your lower back. So you'd score a 3 if your head comes off the floor, the sternum clears the floor, the thighs clear the floor, and your lower back shouldn't be in excessive. Yes, it's an extension, but you're not having any pain in your lower back. If you are, and I would teach this if I was in a class, that triangle going at the front, you need to pin it down more, but I'll tell you that now because I can't see you and I don't need to damage your back. Okay, now you'd get a 2 if maybe you could clear the sternum but not the legs. So the lower legs come off, but you couldn't clear the thighs because you couldn't quite come into full extension there. So either of those, or the legs might come off but you might be down here. And then you'd get a 1 if you couldn't bring your chest off and you couldn't bring the legs off, okay? So that would be a 1 if neither of those cleared the floor. And now we're going to go into our prone shoulder flexion. So you're going to be on your tummy again. I'll just show you. So you're looking to, for the flexion strength in this position. So from here, you're going to see if you can take the hand 6 inches from the floor or beyond. So if you've got restrictions in the shoulder girdle, in the back line, overly tight, that's going to be a difficult one to do. Okay, so your arms aren't really wide, they're in line, hands in line, and then lift, but nothing else lifts. So your head shouldn't be lifting, your back shouldn't be lifting, the legs don't lift. So if you can do that and clear 6 inches or more with those arms, that will score you a 3 on that, okay? So if you can do that and you can take your arms away, but they're not gone to 6 inches, they might only be like 1, or you can keep them over the head, because to do this in itself can be difficult for some people. This would score you a 2 if you're there, okay? So you'd get 3 if you're completely at that 6 inches or more. You'd get 2 if you're here, or you can maybe hover 1 inch off the floor. If none of that was suitable, then you'd need to turn onto your back, and this will score you a 1 to be able to do it this way. You can have your knees bent or your legs straight, you'd need to go that way. Okay, so that's your prone shoulder flexion. And now we're going to come into our prone press up. So this is a little bit different again. We are nearly there. So you've got 1 more to do after this. Now, if you've done Pilates before, this is reminiscent of swan, but it isn't the swan because you don't actually fully extend your elbows on this. So from this position, the elbows actually stay bent. You don't come up as high as you would if you were doing a swan. And you bring your head, neck, sternum, chest off the floor. So you're only here. The elbows are bent. So I'm not doing this. Elbows are bent, but that triangle bone at the front clears the mat, if you like, and the elbows are here. Okay, so this is the distribution of extension through, and do that again. The cervical spine, the thoracic and lumbar, so you're basically the neck, upper, upper mid and lower back, so you're here, okay? But I don't want you to be excessively into your lower back, so you'd score a 3 if that clears, and you'd score a 2 if you could just extend, say, 1 part. So you might just come up here, but not, this isn't off the floor, so that'd be a 2. So you'd be here. So you might have come up, and then a 1, you'd just literally be in that position, so you've hardly moved. Maybe head, neck, sternum, and that's okay, we can work on that. We might need to access flexion before we come into extension. So that's score of 1, score of 2 is here, score of 3 is there, off the floor. And then just sit back a minute into flexion to counteract that. Now your last one you're doing is your prone knee bend. So it's basically, you've probably seen it, it's a quad stretch. So this is the flexibility, not only through your rectus femoris muscle, so the main muscle that crosses your hip and your knee joint, but also that iliopsoas muscle. So let me demonstrate. Your head will rest on your left hand, this is your last exercise, and you take hold of your foot there. Okay, so go into that and just hold it a moment, then release and do that again. Now notice, did you have to go around the houses to get the foot? If you can just pick up the foot and you haven't had to lift up the body, you haven't got to go around the houses, that will score you, and the knee's not gone out here, that would give you a 3. And the pelvis is level, we're not tipping here. If you can get hold of the foot but you've had to maybe just deviate slightly, that will give you a 2. And then a 1 is, yeah, we're not even going to the foot there. Okay? Now we do the same on the other side. You keep your forehead down, take hold, and the hips, the pelvis stays down. So that would be a 3, pelvis is down, we're not tipped, we've got hold of the foot. A 2 would be, you might have to go around here somewhere to get the foot. And a 1, you can bend the knee, but you can't actually take hold of the foot. Okay? Right. So just make a note of that for your right leg and your left leg on those. Okay. We'll be addressing these as we go through the week. And then what you're going to do, and I'll post this into the group later for those people that maybe haven't done this, just add your score together and then you divide it by 15 to get your total score. And don't worry about what the scores mean, that's fine for now. I'll post about that, the categories for that too. So I hope that makes sense. If you need to revisit any of those tests, then you can, obviously. But this will underpin everything else moving forward, and this is what I was saying in the post earlier. It will the areas that you maybe are not so good at or struggle with, it will allow you to identify that will be areas that you might need to strengthen, or you might need to work on flexibility, you might need to work on stability, you might need to work on mobility. So we'll look at that as we go through over this week, this 7 days. And what I was saying to you about symmetry, the body, you could argue, isn't completely symmetrical, even though we see textbook pictures of symmetry. If you think of the front line, how that's structured, to the back line of the body, like think you've got the spine at the back dominating, to the structures of the ribs, etc. at the front line, it's a completely different shape. And because of the heart, obviously on the left side, in true terms, if you were to look at a skeletal framework, the sternum in the line is slightly off of what we would think as centre to account for the heart. And then you think about the heart isn't even a symmetrical shape in itself. So the body and where the organs sit isn't symmetrical anyway. So you could argue that perfect posture is not always attainable. What we're looking for is optimum posture, and that will very much depend on your lifestyle in terms of whether you're sedentary, whether you're active, whether you do a desk job, whether you do a job where you're driving, so you're sat down. It might be a job if you're on your feet all day. And then compound that with sports and different activities that you do, that's going to create postural differences. So we will take all that into account, and I will structure this week, so I'm hoping there's something for everyone and you get things out of it. I'll probably teach it a little bit more workshop style in the initial stages, so you actually get and feel the movements, and then I'll formulate it more into a class as we get a bit later on into the week. So let me know your thoughts and feedback on that, or if there's anything that you need me to clarify that still isn't there when you play it back. And let me know, and thanks if you joined me live, and I'll see you again tomorrow night at 7, and then we will start on that work. Okay, cool, Craig. Yeah, catch up.